Thank you, Anne. Kia ora koutou everyone. I'm Lloyd Harwood. I'm Community Arts Manager with Councillor Nelson. I'll be introducing our short presentation. Basically, I'll give you a brief history and introduction about what Arts Council is and what it does, and then we lead into the more important stuff with Janja and Rohan later. So apologies up front. If I do mumble, do shout out. I'll put your hand up if you can't hear me, because I'm a compulsive mumbler. So if you can't hear me, do let me know. So first of all, anyway, Arts Council Nelson is, for those of you who don't know, I feel like I'm preaching to the converted, because I know most of you here, and I know most of you probably know all about Arts Council, but I shall go through this anyway. It's an incorporated society which is governed by an executive committee of up to 12 members nominated from the wider community. They are joined by appointed NCC liaison representatives who are currently Councillor Matty Anderson and Deputy Mayor Rohan Stevens, beg your pardon. In 1969, Arts Council Nelson, then known as the Nelson Provincial Museum, was founded with the following objectives: to encourage, promote and coordinate the study, practice and enjoyment of the arts in the province of Nelson, and to promote and encourage the public awareness of their existence, their function and their value in the community. 54 years later, these objectives are still being adhered to through our current mission statement, which is to promote, initiate and support projects and activities that stimulate and strengthen the artistic and cultural life of our communities. That's quite a brief, isn't it? We work towards these objectives in many ways, often creating and delivering our own initiatives, but also through developing many meaningful partnerships with other groups and organisations. By offering advisory and support, this continues to be a very community valued service, and ACN welcomes and receives inquiries across a broad spectrum of creatives and initiatives and practice. ACN employs a full-time community arts manager, yours truly, our Refinery ArtSpace manager, Janja Heathfield, and we have a part-time arts administrator as well, all of whom have broad experience and considerable local knowledge. The office, Arts Council office, is situated within the Refinery ArtSpace on 114 Hardy Street and operates an open door policy for inquiries and assistance between 10 to 5 Monday to Friday. The move from our Halifax Street site to the Hardy Street has resulted in a greater diversity of community engagement, which has been warmly welcomed. Our website remains current with helpful information, including guides on making applications and writing proposals, events and exhibition listings, along with arts news and creative opportunities which we share widely. As an organisation, ACN regularly lobbies and advocates on behalf of artists and the wider community, and provides advisory support for individuals, groups, businesses and local authorities. Community access to funding assistance and advice is enhanced through ACN's administering of the Nelson City Creative Communities Local Arts Funding Scheme, which we do on behalf of Nelson City Council. We're one of the few organisations or local areas actually that have a third party administering that scheme. All other local authorities around the country do their own schemes, but it's actually a really good model here, because it means that applicants or potential applicants have a lot of really easy access to good advice on how to actually apply and actually create projects as well. I do a lot of project development stuff with people as well, which is really good. And I think it's a model which should be sort of adopted in other areas as well. So we administer the scheme on behalf of the Nelson City Council. I also represented on the Tasman scheme as well, on this as an assessment member. And this places us well for having a broad overview of arts activity in the region. Both schemes hold 3 funding rounds per annum, and with closing dates in March, July and November. ACN staff are ready available to help with any queries regarding project development through to submitting applications to the scheme or other funding bodies as appropriate. I do quite a bit of that work as well. ACN continually looks for and undertakes opportunities to enrich and promote the region's creative happenings and the fruits of our creative community. We do this by maintaining an up-to-date website, offering free promotional opportunities through the publication of monthly arts e-newsletters, which go out to an extensive free subscribed database. And we advocate for the use of its own directory, which is a wonderful tool here in Nelson, and through various social media platforms as well. Creative CBD businesses are further promoted through the production of a free pocket-sized arts guide map, which is very popular both with local residents and our many visitors to the town. ACN acknowledge and thank Nelson City Council for its recognition and support of its community valued service provision. We welcome working alongside the Nelson City Council Arts and Heritage team on many initiatives and regularly undertake administration and or delivery of projects such as street art flags, chorus cabinet mural art commissions, Tuku heritage events, the Pride and other mural projects, to name just a few. In addition to these core services, ACN delivers many arts events, big and small, throughout the year. Nationally subscribed events include Nelson Clay Week, Nelson Jewellery Week, Changing Threads Contemporary Fibre Art Awards, the Pushing Clay Uphill Contemporary Ceramics Award, and our Raw Show. Raw is for untrained artists, for you that don't know that. So it's anyone who doesn't actually have any formal training in art have an opportunity to actually get their work into a gallery in a curated exhibition. The Tōrangatahi, other youth and several targeted showcases are facilitated in line with the Refinery ArtSpace programme. The past few years have seen ACM focusing on the development of the Refinery ArtSpace, which has been hugely welcomed on Hardy Street and extremely well received by our diverse communities. I'll pass you on to our amazing Refinery ArtSpace manager, Janja Heathfield, who will outline more of that programme. Thank you.
Ora koutou, ahi hei mai ko Janja Heathfield tōku ingoa, and I have the privilege of being the Refinery ArtSpace manager. And for any of you who don't know where that is, it's about 2 blocks that way. I have prepared notes, so I will be referring to them. Refinery ArtSpace is home to Arts Council Nelson, to Te Ramaroa and the Adam Chamber Festival teams. We have 3 galleries and an affordable, bookable workshop space that gets used for anything from a drawing class on a Monday night to a French Cine Club on a Friday night. We are core-funded by Nelson City Council, and we collaborate with other arts organisations such as Cultural Conversations, Nelson Arts Festival, Nelson Fringe Festival, and Magenta Creative Space, amongst others. We are deeply committed to stimulating and strengthening the cultural life of Whakatū Nelson, supporting a diverse program of exhibitions and events and community-driven contemporary exhibitions, projects and events. Last year we hosted over 30 solo and group exhibitions and special events, bringing nearly 15,000 people through our doors, supporting 293 exhibiting artists, and bringing over 3,500 members of the community through events in our workshop space. So that is Refinery ArtSpace. Now, we've also been asked to talk about imagining a thriving arts community in Whakatū. So, unleashing creativity. What if we could bring people's visions, stories and wishes into the outside? So let's explore the idea of a truly thriving and cohesive arts community in Nelson, where art comes out of the institutions and into the community and onto the streets. Art is a way to connect and to celebrate, a way that we can share our diverse stories, and a way that we can talk about the hard stuff, a way to challenge perceptions and a way to envisage alternatives. Whakatū is known for its stunning landscapes, primary industries and rich cultural heritage, and as Annette mentioned yesterday, Nelson was once thought of as the arts capital of New Zealand. This was discussed in a panel discussion several years ago at Nelson Arts Festival, and the consensus was that it lost that reputation for a while. So, imagine if Whakatū were not only a hub for natural beauty, but also as a thriving haven for the arts. So currently Nelson is home to many talented artists and several arts organisations, many of whom punch above our weight and have been struggling since the pandemic. Limited spaces, audience awareness, resources and coordination often hinder the full potential of the arts community. But what if we could amplify this cultural heartbeat, and what if it wouldn't actually take too much to do it? Imagine an arts precinct in the city where our diverse communities saw themselves reflected in abundant public art, vibrant art studios, galleries, a community arts hub with interconnected, accessible making and performance spaces scattered throughout Nelson. A place where artists from diverse backgrounds collaborate and inspire each other, fostering a dynamic and supportive community. The arts have the power to bring people together. Picture a community where residents actively engage in artistic expression, fostering a sense of unity and belonging. A CBD where residents can access an affordable ArtSpace program, attend a developmental theatre piece or a poetry reading around the corner, or stumble upon a street art performance. A robust arts community can be an educational hub, providing workshops, classes and mentorship programs that foster well-being and teach us about ourselves. Imagine the impact on the next generation if artists were supported to affordable spaces and maybe could give back by helping rangatahi, for example, to develop artistic skills and a passion for creativity, and so that they can tell their own stories, like the Rapid Identity Through Street Art program pictured here, run by Magenta Creative Space. The arts reflects the soul of a community. A thriving arts scene in Whakatū can contribute to this town's unique cultural identity, attracting individuals who appreciate and value artistic expression. A thriving arts community is not just about creativity, it's also a significant economic driver. And increased tourism, art sales and cultural events can contribute to the town's economic growth, sure. But fostering experiential creative tourism, where visitors don't just come to see things and attend events, but stick around to participate and learn and contribute to and to perhaps return, will cement Nelson as a destination with creativity in its bones. So, overcoming challenges. Imagine building a thriving arts community comes with challenges. Collaboration, fundraising and community engagement are key elements to addressing these challenges. Imagine an arts development agency that artists, residents and producers alike could connect to and actively contribute ideas or get advice from, and who advocate for public art installations, events and cultural festivals. Engaging the community ensures that the arts are a reflection of the collective spirit. Building a thriving arts community requires financial support, so an arts development agency could work with local and national government, local businesses and landlords, secure grants and sponsorships to help fund initiatives and infrastructure. And no community thrives in isolation. So imagine partnerships with neighbouring towns, artist collectives and cultural organisations to create a regional network of creativity. So in conclusion, it's time for us to collectively work towards creating an environment where the arts can truly flourish in Nelson. A thriving and cohesive arts community in Whakatū, rooted in diversity and collaboration, has the power to redefine the cultural, social and economic landscape. Let's commit to this vision so more cool stuff like this can happen. I'd like to introduce Rohan O'Neill-Stevens, who is the one of the council liaisons on Arts Council Nelson Board. and is going to talk about He Tātai Whetū Whakatū.
Kia ora koutou katoa, ko Porongia, te maunga, ko Waipa te awa, ko Tainui te waka, ko Ngāti Apakura, te iwi, ko Rohan and Stevens, tōku ingoa, ko Koro Mātua Tuarua, o Whakatū, tōku mahi, nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa. I'm Rohan, I'm your Deputy Mayor. I also have had the pleasure for the past 5 years serving on Arts Council in the role of Council Liaison. I also chair our He Tātai Whetū Arts and Creativity Task Force. I'm also the chair of Showquest Charitable Trust, the chair of our City Centre Business Forum. In the past, I've been heavily involved in transport and infrastructure. I'm very passionate about housing. And the reason I always like to continue on talking about not just the roles that have arts in the title, but everything else, is because when we talk about arts and creativity, we can't see it as isolated or distinct from those other factors that shape and change who we are and how we express ourselves. One of my favourite facts is that in times of political strife, graffiti always increases. Speaking of which, we should probably increase our budgets for that. Yeah, we're cutting loose. I know I'm meant to talk about He Tātai Whetū and the implementation of our art strategy. I'll get there. I think on some level I could just list all of the projects we're doing, but I don't think that reflects really what that strategy is and where it came from, which is, as Janja touched on and Annette yesterday, we used to be considered the creative capital. We're not. We're not considered that anymore. And I think, to be really frank, rightfully so, because whilst we have so many wonderful artists and creatives in the city doing incredible work, we're not investing in the infrastructure and the requirements to make that capital part of it true. And so, having spent 10 years talking about that, finally in 2022 we decided to produce a strategy to turn that around, and Council adopted that in August of 2022. But when Council adopted it, we were really clear that it wasn't our strategy and our strategy alone. So when I talk about the implementation that we've done, that's implementation that Council's done. But it is a community-wide strategy built from engagement of the people on the ground doing far more mahi than I could ever do in this space, and far more mahi than Council could ever do. And so again, I want to acknowledge, I know many of you in the room who all work incredibly hard to do this. I do want to touch on some of the factors that led to that decline, because it's not just that Council stopped investing in the arts, because still per capita we put in a significant amount of funding. That's not it alone that led to a decline in that sense of vibrancy. We also have to talk about the role that house prices in this region have played over the past 30 years of their significant increase, to talk about the cost of living and lack of wage growth that's occurred in this region, because what we know is that artists thrive in places that are affordable to live, and partly that's a result of our creative economy not paying particularly well. Partly that's where places are attractive and where, if you're trying to set out, it's actually a really good place to start. So I want to acknowledge again that when we have this conversation, we're talking so much wider than just the arts sector in and of itself. In the same way that when we do large infrastructure projects, we're just finishing up very soon a $24 million flood protection project out at Saxton Creek. And one of the really cool parts about that project, and I think the thing that will be remembered more than the fact that each time it rains, water just flows through nicely and we don't have any issues, is a gorgeous panel created by a local artist who also happened to work in concrete manufacturing. And so we were able to develop a new way of etching this large-scale design onto concrete that can now be rolled out in future infrastructure projects. And that's one of the really key things about He Tātai Whetū, is weaving our arts and creativity through the actions of everything that Council does, but also in the minds and the actions of Nelsonians more widely, because we know that we need to celebrate and share this resource as a community and as a collective. What are some of the stuff to get excited about that we are doing? Well, I'm really excited about some of the work that we've been doing with Arts Council around the development of an arts development agency, which again Janja touched on. With that being one of the key moves that came out of the strategy of saying, actually, we have a lot of good things happening. How can we link them up? How can we tie them together, and how can we multiply their impact and actually tell our stories better? And one of the key things that came out was we need the resourcing and the space and place to be able to do that. And so this idea of the Arts Development Agency came about. I can say over the past 6 months it's shaped and changed. We've had a lot of conversations back and forth, and it'll continue to grow as it does, but that is seeded now, and I'm really excited to see what that turns into. One of the other projects we've been putting a lot of work into is the development of an arts hub, that central piece of infrastructure that can be the open door for when particularly someone new comes to this region with great creative energy. And I do have to think of Play Week and Tom and Jamie from Kiln as a sort of a great example of people coming into the region and immediately injecting energy. And already Arts Council and the Refinery ArtSpace served as that open door to walk into and take an idea and immediately see it blow up in a way I don't know that any of us could have really predicted when they first floated Clay Week. And it's going to be even bigger and even better next year. So get involved. In addition to that, there's a range, and I should touch on what the actual pillars are of the strategy, which is taukiri, identity, forging that place, that sense of connection to place by reflecting who we are in the built and physical environment around us, and being able to express who we are through arts and creativity. Pautarawaho infrastructure, we need spaces to be able to do things, and we need solid investment if we want to see our arts and creative scene thrive. Tūranga Whakatū placemaking, taking that arts and creativity and not just seeing ourselves reflected in our place, but actually making our place better and more vibrant and thriving. And ohanga oaha, the creative economy, and recognising, as we so often forget in these conversations, the huge, and I do mean huge, economic impact that arts and creativity has. And we're still terrible at actually quantifying it, because it's not just, again, and this is where arts and creativity is both so great, but also from an investment, if you're looking at cold hard numbers, really challenging, is the benefits aren't just seen in the arts and creative sector, it's seen throughout everything, through your hospitality, through retail, your events bringing people into town, but also that attractiveness of a location for people to want to come and invest and spend money. And so much of that we haven't yet figured out the right formula for perfectly quantifying. But across those areas we are doing significant things, and this is where I just quickly list them all off, and then we can get into a wider discussion. We've got our Toi Māori Gateway project, the new Mātangi Awhio footbridge, which we've been partnering with iwi on, that is set to launch for the bridge and artwork is April 2024. We've got another significant Toi Māori Gateway project, and again the focus being how do, when you step into our region, you feel this place as distinct in who we are, and how do we tell the stories that have been here for an incredibly long time. In terms of the infrastructure, we're now doing a free light art projector loans to the community. We've already done 5 loans so far this financial year, not this calendar year for some reason. Global light art projection consent reaching its final stages with planners. I'll be honest, I don't know what that means. Nikki? Oh, she's snuck out. Tom?
Taukatū.
Yeah, that's just removing barriers for people to use those projectors because they haven't got to apply for a resource consent.
There you go.
They get a tick straight away.
Yeah, the people doing real work. and again, I want to acknowledge Tom, who does a huge amount of work, but our arts and heritage team are proactively engaging, and again, this is about that weaving with teams across council to incorporate art into projects, not at the last moment, not as a tack on, but actually as a really fundamental part of their development, and truly weaving it in to create some incredibly special partnership projects, and there's already some cool ones in the pipeline. We're bringing a bilingual interpretation panel to be added to the Tumako Murals project at Trafalgar Park, and we've launched an updated Arts and Heritage Partnership Grants portal on Shape Nelson, so those who are applying for grants, there is a new portal, and we've already received a number of applications and already distributed $9,000. I think my final reflection before we have a Q&A and a discussion is there's so much that council can do, but actually we need to be handing out as much of that resourcing into the community to really have that ownership and have all of you shape and deliver these projects in a way that speaks to your experiences and your identity and your creativity, as well as being able to do it, putting the fiscal conservative hat on at a way more cost-effective and efficient level, because if there's one thing the arts community is scarily good at, it's taking a small amount of money and turning it into a really, really big impact. So that's really the final sort of push, is how can we take what happens internally and actually put it out into the community